Hi everyone, I'm Frazer Bennett. I'm PA's Chief Innovation Officer. I'm really pleased to be joined by Dan Cable, who is the Professor of Organisational Behaviour at the London Business School.
Hi,
nice
Frazer.
to see you, Dan.
Thanks.
Hi, and I think we are both optimists. That's what I've sort of discovered in my conversations with you. I think we both believe that the optimistic mindset will create the opportunities for the future, and actually it's ingenuity and embracing change which we need organisations to be able to configure themselves to do. And I was just wondering, in your eyes, why is it that organisations seem to be so reluctant to embrace change?
The part where we really have some science behind us is this idea that positive emotions are the underbelly of change. If you want creativity and you want innovation, the emotions of, say, curiosity and excitement will always beat the emotions of, say, fear and anxiety. But I think that when organizations got big, when management kind of got going in the 1900s, fear was the go-to emotion. I think maybe it's the case that what leaders needed then was certainty about process and standardization.
Yes.
And fear is really good for focusing people on what they already know.
Okay, so when we standardize, the Taylorist philosophy says you optimize, you refine, you iterate, and so on.
That's right.
But we're in an age where much of that can be embraced by technology. So maybe the things that organizations are looking for is they're different now.
That's right. There's a phrase that says, if you can standardize and script a job perfectly, that probably won't be a job for long.
Yeah.
So that I think the idea that what seems to add the most value these days is employee innovation, where they're trying new things and exploring instead of repeating efficiently what they already knew.
Yeah.
So the notion of proactively creating rather than efficiently doing what they're told seems to have increased value. And in terms of an employee workforce, we're still often living in the 1950s in terms of how we hire people, how we reward people, how we evaluate people, how we promote people.
So there's something about process. There's also, you touched on something about scale of organization. It might lead me to conclude that there's some intrinsic thing about the size of an organization which says, in order to have that scale, you must compromise on your ability to innovate as a business.
Right.
Is that?
I think it's really fair to say that you have to balance. If you have 15 people in a startup, there can be a lot more play and exploration because you don't yet have policy. You don't yet have promises about the brand that people are expecting a certain degree of quality on a certain day, and 100,000 people are expecting that. So there's something about scaling up that takes out the possibility even of full-on just play around.
Yes, because as a large organization, we have responsibilities that are more apparent to our customers. They expect consistency of experience, whatever that might be. The implication of that, is it that innovation becomes a department?
No.
So I can have these people over here. 90% of my business are doing the process thing and keeping the customers happy. And then I've got this small group of people who are responsible for innovation. Because my perspective is that innovation isn't a department. Innovation is a way of thinking about things.
That's right.
It's a mindset. And I want anybody in an organization to be able to have the space to challenge, the confidence and safety to be able to challenge. Innovation isn't the role of R&D.
Yes,
right?
I really agree with that. In fact, there's huge numbers of research studies showing that those don't work. That simply forming the offsite R&D department doesn't seem to bleed the ideas back into the organization. And what seems to work is this culture of innovation or this growth mindset you're talking about. The phrase that I use when I talk about this is you have to find the freedom within the frame. Where the frame are the non-negotiables. It might be the cost and the due date, the idea that nobody gets hurt, maybe the number of defects. There's certain things that the organization makes promises around, but within the frame, the how we get there often has enormous amounts of innovation and creativity at all levels. We could be talking about somebody in accounting, we could be talking about somebody in human resources, we could be talking about somebody in operations and logistics. And what I think is really exciting is in every single job, the idea that a senior leader would promote find the freedom within your frame to use your best skills and innovate to deliver. I think that type of a language or that type of a mindset gives people that freedom to try and to explore, but has collective action that delivers on the company's promises.
Okay. So let's dig into that a bit. Let's stand back and think of the role of the leader. Tell us about the role of the leader in that organization.
Yeah, one of the things I think is embracing uncertainty rather than trying to avoid it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that it's really important in any case for the leader to think about, if I'm only caring about this quarter, then efficiency, metrics, and controls are great.
Mm-hmm.
If I still want to exist in 3 years, I need to find a way to balance in that freedom, that innovation, that creativity, that self-expression.
Yes, yeah. And then as we think about the future, of course, technology and the impact of the pace of change of technology comes into play, and the obvious kind of buzzwords of the day about AI and chatbots and those technologies, how will they change the expectations we have of a workforce?
I mean, I wish I knew better. It seems to me, based on everything I've read, that there's going to have to be this shift toward getting the creativity and the innovation as the most valuable part of the human being, as opposed to a thing that Henry Ford would have slightly despised because it messed up his assembly line.
Yeah.
And I think that in the olden days, when we thought about management as a set of tasks that we can prescribe in advance, you innovating, well, that's seen as a bug.
Right.
And I think now we're seeing, no, that's a feature.
Yeah. I'm hiring graduates into PA born in 1998. It does make me think, as we think about the next 10 years, what are the intrinsic characteristics of a future workforce that we should be hiring for? Because we don't know the skills that we are going to need even 5 years from now. So it does lead me to think, so what are the characteristics of a future workforce that we should be nurturing, encouraging, and hiring for, perhaps?
It's great. I think if we go the whole way back to the beginning, we think about bookending this conversation, that concept of a growth mindset over an achievement mindset, where the growth mindset is focused on, I won't ever get this perfect, but the important thing is that I keep learning about how to get it better. And that the solution to my job is not to do exactly what my boss tells me, but to understand the needs, the outputs of the job, and find a better way to get us to those outputs. And that mindset is really hard to train, but is also trainable.
Okay.
So the idea that you might be better off finding those people and just hiring them, but it is possible to take that fixed mindset that's based on achieving what you already know and shift it toward a growth mindset where the fever is around actively learning.
Yeah, and what's really apparent in that is that those characteristics that we look for have impact, not just at the front end of a business in relationships with customers. We're looking for those same mindsets across every role in the business. We want everybody to be within their role, challenging the frame within which they've been asked to operate, because that's how we innovate. And all the while, as you mentioned earlier, if a role in an organization can be systematized, it can be formalized, it will no longer be a role. It won't be a job anymore. So the future workforce that we look for in our organization is that ability to challenge, that willingness to find connections between things that one otherwise wouldn't have naturally thought. People who actively go out of their way to get inspiration from people they wouldn't otherwise normally work with. That's diversity in action, right? And that's really what the future workforce that we aspire to be able to nurture inside an organization.
I couldn't agree more.
I think we'll wrap it up there. Dan, it's been really good to chat with you.
Thank you, Frazer. Great chatting with you too.